The sound of metal hitting metal echoed through the small garage as Dae-ho worked under the old hoverbike. His hands were covered in grease and oil from fixing the engine all day. The bike belonged to Mrs. Kim, who lived down the street. She needed it working by tomorrow morning to get to her job at the market. Dae-ho was 34 years old and had been fixing machines since he was a teenager. His father taught him everything about engines and motors before he died. Now, Dae-ho ran the garage by himself in the small town outside Seoul. He was not rich, but he was happy with his simple life. The clock on the wall showed 11:30 at night. Most people in town were already sleeping, but Dae-ho liked working when it was quiet. He could think better and focus on the complicated problems that machines sometimes had. The hoverbike was making a strange noise, and he was trying to find what was wrong. Suddenly, the whole garage shook. The tools on his workbench rattled and fell to the floor. Outside, he heard a loud roaring sound, like thunder but much louder. Then came a terrible crash that made the windows shake. Dae-ho rolled out from under the bike and ran to the window. The sky was bright orange and red with fire. Something was falling from the clouds, trailing smoke and flames behind it. It was not an airplane or helicopter. The shape was wrong, and it moved differently through the air. The burning object crashed into the empty field about 2 kilometers away from town. The ground shook again, and Dae-ho saw a flash of bright light. Then everything went quiet except for the crackling sound of fire. Dae-ho grabbed his flashlight and first aid kit from the shelf. He always kept medical supplies in the garage because accidents happened when working with machines. He climbed into his old truck and drove toward the crash site as fast as he could. The road to the field was bumpy, and his truck bounced over rocks and holes. When he got close, he could see the wreckage burning in the darkness. It was definitely not human technology. The metal looked smooth and curved in strange ways. Parts of it glowed with a soft blue light, even though they were damaged. Dae-ho parked his truck and walked carefully toward the wreck. The air smelled like burned metal and something else he could not identify. It was sweet, but also sharp like electricity. He called out in Korean asking if anyone was alive, but heard no answer. Then he saw her. A figure was lying near a piece of broken metal about 20 meters from the main wreck. At first, Dae-ho thought it might be a person wearing some kind of special suit. But as he got closer with his flashlight, he realized this was not human. She was about the same size as a human woman, but her skin had a strange quality to it. Even in the darkness, he could see patterns of light moving under her skin like veins made of stars. The patterns were very dim and flickering weakly. Her hair was longer than most humans and had a silver color that seemed to glow softly. Her clothes were torn and burned. She had cuts on her arms and legs that were bleeding a liquid that looked dark red, but had tiny sparkles in it like glitter. She was unconscious but still breathing. Her chest moved up and down slowly. Dae-ho knelt down beside her and checked for serious injuries. He had learned basic first aid from his father, who used to help people hurt in factory accidents. Her pulse felt different from a human pulse, but it was steady. The cuts looked painful, but not life-threatening. The woman made a small sound, and her eyes opened slightly. They were larger than human eyes, and had a golden color that seemed to shine in the flashlight beam. When she saw Dae-ho, she tried to move away, but was too weak and hurt. Dae-ho held up his hands to show he meant no harm. He spoke softly in Korean, telling her that he wanted to help. She did not understand his words, but seemed to recognize that. His voice was gentle and kind. The patterns under her skin flickered from very dim to completely dark. Dae-ho realized she was dying. Character description: Dae-ho, a 34-year-old human mechanic with strong but gentle hands from years of working with tools. He has short black hair and kind eyes that show his caring nature. He wears simple work clothes that are always a little dirty from his job. Dae-ho is not tall or strong-looking, but he has a calm confidence that comes from knowing how to fix things. Nari, an alien woman from the Kalari species who appears similar to humans but with distinct differences. Her skin has a natural luminescent quality with intricate patterns that glow softly beneath the surface. These patterns change color based on her emotions and health. When healthy, the patterns show bright blues and greens, but when injured or afraid, they become dim red or go completely dark. Her hair has a natural silver tone that reflects light. Her eyes are larger than human eyes and have a golden amber color. She is graceful in movement, even when injured. Daeho made a quick decision that would change both their lives forever. He could not leave this injured woman to die in the field. He also could not call the police or hospital because they would ask too many questions about where she came from. The government would probably take her away and do terrible things to her. Very carefully, he lifted Nari in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, and her skin felt warm, but different from human skin. It was smoother and seemed to have a very faint vibration like electricity running through it. The glowing patterns under her skin flickered weakly as he carried her to his truck. During the drive back to town, Nari drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes, she would make soft sounds in a language Daeho had never heard before. The words sounded like music mixed with whispers. When she was awake, her golden eyes looked around with fear and confusion. Daeho parked behind his garage and carried her up the stairs to his small apartment above the shop. He had lived there alone since his father died 5 years ago. It was not fancy, but it was clean and comfortable with one bedroom, a kitchen, and a living room with old furniture. He laid Nari on his bed and brought warm water and clean towels. The cuts on her arms and legs needed to be cleaned and bandaged. Daeho worked very slowly and gently. Every time she flinched or made a sound of pain, he would stop and wait for her to relax. As he cleaned her wounds, he noticed that her blood was not exactly like human blood. It was red but had tiny sparkles that caught the light like crushed diamonds. The cuts were healing faster than human cuts would heal. Within an hour, they had already started to close. When Nari fully woke up, she was terrified. She sat up quickly and pressed herself against the wall, looking around the strange room. Her skin patterns flashed bright red, which Daeho somehow understood meant danger or fear. She tried to speak, but the words were in her alien language. Daeho sat down in a chair across the room to give her space. He did not want her to feel trapped or threatened. He spoke in the gentlest voice he could manage, telling her in Korean that she was safe and that he would not hurt her. Nari did not understand his words, but she could hear the kindness in his voice. She watched him carefully as he slowly got up and brought her a glass of water. He set it on the table near the bed and stepped back again. She looked at the water for a long time before picking it up. Her hands shook as she drank, and Daeho could see that she was very weak. He went to the kitchen and made simple soup with vegetables and rice. The smell of cooking food seemed to calm her, and her skin patterns changed from bright red to a softer orange color. When Daeho brought the soup, she hesitated before tasting it. Her eyes went wide with surprise, and she looked at him with something that might have been gratitude. She ate slowly but finished the whole bowl. Over the next few hours, Daeho tried different ways to communicate with her. He pointed to himself and said his name slowly. Then he pointed to objects around the room, saying their names in Korean. Nari watched everything he did with intense attention. She was clearly very intelligent. When Daeho pointed to the water and said the Korean word, she repeated it back with only a slight accent. Her voice was musical and pleasant to listen to. When she said his name, it sounded like a song. As the night went on, Nari began to relax. Her skin patterns shifted from orange to a pale yellow, which seemed to mean she was feeling more comfortable. She tried to copy some of the Korean words Daeho taught her and seemed pleased when she got them right. Near dawn, Daeho brought her clean clothes that had belonged to his younger sister who lived in the city now. The clothes were simple but warm. He left the room while Nari changed, and when he came back, she looked more like a normal person except for her glowing skin and unusual eyes. Daeho made up a bed for himself on the living room couch. He gave Nari his bedroom because she needed rest to heal. Before he left her alone, he showed her where the bathroom was and brought her more water and food. As he closed the bedroom door, Nari spoke one word in Korean. She said thank you, but the way she said it made it sound like the most beautiful thing in the world. Glow description. Nari's bioluminescent patterns are like living artwork beneath her skin. When she first woke up, afraid the patterns pulsed bright red like warning lights. As Daeho showed her kindness, the red faded to orange like sunset colors. When she felt more comfortable, the orange became soft yellow like candlelight. The patterns move slowly under her skin like gentle waves or flowing water. They are most visible on her arms, face, and neck. The light is not bright enough to illuminate a room, but it is clearly visible in normal lighting. The patterns seem to respond to her emotions faster than her facial expressions do, giving Daeho clues about how she is feeling even when they cannot speak the same language. 3 weeks passed, and Nari healed faster than any human could. Her cuts disappeared completely, leaving no scars behind. Her strength returned, and she could walk around the apartment without getting tired. The color patterns under her skin became brighter and more active as her health improved. Every morning, Daeho would teach her new Korean words before going down to work in his garage. Nari was amazingly quick at learning language. She remembered every word he taught her and could use them correctly the next day. Her accent was getting better too, and sometimes Daeho forgot she was not human when she spoke. Nari was also very curious about everything in the apartment. She studied how the lights worked and examined the television with great interest. When Daeho showed her how to use the remote control, she figured out all the buttons in minutes. She especially liked watching cooking shows and news programs, because they helped her learn Korean faster. One morning, Nari surprised Daeho by speaking in almost perfect Korean. She told him that she wanted to help with his work instead of sitting alone all day. She said she knew about machines and engines from her home world and maybe she could be useful. Daeho was worried about letting her into the garage where customers might see her, but Nari had been practicing with makeup and found ways to make her glowing skin look more normal. She could not hide it completely, but in dim light she might pass for human with unusual skin. He decided to let her help with simple tasks when no customers were around. Nari proved to be incredibly skilled with mechanical work. She understood how engines worked even better than Daeho did. Her hands moved with perfect precision, and she never made mistakes. The first machine she worked on was an old air conditioning unit that had been broken for months. Daeho had given up trying to fix it because the problem was too complicated. Nari studied it for 20 minutes, then began taking it apart. She worked for 2 hours, and when she was finished, the unit ran better than when it was new. Daeho watched in amazement as she explained what had been wrong. She used Korean words mixed with concepts from her own world to describe engineering ideas he had never heard before. Her skin patterns glowed bright blue and green when she talked about technical things, which Daeho learned meant excitement and happiness. Nari also began teaching Daeho about her home world. In the evenings, they would sit together and she would tell him stories about her planet. She described cities that floated in the sky, held up by magnetic fields. She talked about forests made of crystal trees that sang in the wind. She explained how her people could change the color patterns on their skin to communicate emotions and ideas. Her home world sounded beautiful, but Nari always looked sad when she talked about it. Her skin patterns would shift to darker colors, like deep purple and gray. Daeho could tell there was something painful in her past, but he did not push her to explain. He waited for her to tell him when she was ready. During the day, Nari helped Daeho fix more and more complicated machines. She improved his tools by adding small modifications that made them work better. She showed him how to organize his workshop more efficiently. She even helped him understand problems with machines that had confused him for years. Customers began to notice that Dae-ho was fixing things faster and better than before. Mrs. Kim said her hoverbike had never run so smoothly. Mr. Lee brought his old truck that 3 other mechanics could not repair, and Dae-ho fixed it in one afternoon with Nari's help. Nari stayed hidden in the back room when customers came, but she could hear everything that happened. She was learning about human society by listening to people talk about their problems and daily lives. Sometimes she would ask Dae-ho questions about human customs that made him think about his own culture in new ways. In the evenings, Nari cooked dinner using recipes she learned from television shows. She was an excellent cook and made Korean food that tasted even better than what Dae-ho remembered from his childhood. She also taught him to make simple dishes from her home world using earth ingredients. They developed a comfortable routine together. Dae-ho would wake up early and Nari would have breakfast ready. They would work together in the garage during the day, sharing tools and ideas. In the evening, they would eat dinner and watch television or talk about their different worlds. Dae-ho found himself looking forward to coming home each day. The apartment felt warm and alive with Nari there. She laughed at his jokes and listened carefully when he talked about his problems. She was becoming not just a friend, but someone he cared about deeply. Nari seemed happier too. Her skin patterns were usually bright colors now, except when she thought about her home world. She hummed songs from her planet while she worked and smiled more often. Sometimes, Dae-ho caught her looking at him with an expression he could not quite understand, but it made his heart beat faster. Glow. Description. As Nari became healthier and happier, her skin patterns became much more vibrant and complex. When she worked on machines, the patterns would glow bright blue and green, flowing in rapid spirals down her arms like liquid lightning. The blues were deep, like ocean water, and the greens were brilliant, like emeralds. When she felt excited about solving a problem, the patterns would pulse faster and spread across her face and neck. During quiet evening conversations, the patterns became softer and slower, shifting between warm golden colors and gentle purples. When she cooked or did other careful work, the patterns would form small, precise geometric shapes that moved in rhythmic waves. Her emotional patterns were becoming easier for Dae-ho to read, like learning a beautiful visual language that spoke directly to the heart. One evening after they finished dinner, Nari sat quietly on the couch staring out the window at the stars. Her skin patterns were deep purple and gray, which Dae-ho now knew meant sadness and pain. She had been like this for several days, and he was worried about her. Dae-ho sat down beside her and gently asked what was wrong. For a long time, Nari did not speak. Then slowly, in careful Korean, she began to tell him about her past and why she had to leave her home world. Nari explained that her people, the Kalari, lived in a society with strict rules about what different groups could do. People were put into classes when they were born and could never change. The highest class were the rulers who made all the decisions. Below them were the thinkers who were allowed to study and create new things. At the bottom were the builders who could only do simple work with their hands. Nari was born into the builder class. This meant she was supposed to spend her whole life doing basic labor like cleaning or carrying things. Even though she was very smart and loved learning about machines, she was not allowed to study or create inventions. The rulers said that builders were too stupid to understand complex ideas, but Nari was not stupid. In secret, she studied engineering and science by watching the thinkers work. She learned how to build amazing machines and had ideas for inventions that could help all Kalari people. She dreamed of sharing her knowledge to make life better for everyone. When she was 25 years old, Nari made a terrible mistake. She created a new type of engine that could power their floating cities more efficiently. She thought the rulers would be happy to have such a useful invention. Instead, they were furious that a builder dared to think she could create something important. The rulers said Nari had committed a crime by trying to rise above her class. They called her a heretic and said she was dangerous to their society. Her punishment was to be exiled from the home world forever. She would be put on a ship and sent away to die alone in space. Nari's skin patterns flashed angry red as she told this part of the story. Daeho could see how much pain and rage she felt about the unfair treatment. She had only wanted to help her people, but they rejected her because of the circumstances of her birth. The night before her exile, Nari escaped from prison and stole a small ship. She had studied the ship's design in secret and knew how to fly it. Her plan was to find a distant world where she could live in peace and maybe use her skills to help others. She traveled through space for many months, visiting different planets. Some worlds had no intelligent life, others had people who were hostile to strangers. Nari began to think she would never find a place where she belonged. Then her ship's navigation system was damaged in an asteroid field. The ship started flying toward Earth, but Nari could not control where it would land. She tried to repair the navigation, but the ship crashed before she could fix it. When she woke up in that field and saw Daeho's kind face, she thought she was dreaming. On her home world, no one had ever shown her such gentle care. Builders were treated like tools, not like people with feelings and thoughts. Daeho listened to her story without saying anything. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time, thinking about what she had told him. Finally, he spoke about his own life and how he understood what it felt like to be looked down on. He told Nari that many humans also judged people by things. They could not control like how much money their families had or where they were born. He had grown up poor and never went to university, so some people thought he was not smart. But his father taught him that a person's worth came from their actions and character, not from their social class. Daeho said that on Earth, respect had to be earned through hard work and kindness to others. He told Nari that in the weeks she had lived with him, she had proven herself to be brilliant, helpful, and good-hearted. Those qualities mattered more than what class she was born into. As he spoke, Nari's skin patterns slowly changed from sad purple to warm gold. Daeho had learned that gold meant deep emotional connection and trust. She moved closer to him on the couch and took his hand in hers. Nari said that for the first time in her life, she felt truly valued for who she was inside. Daeho saw her not as a lowly builder, but as an intelligent woman with important ideas. He treated her as an equal partner in their work together. She told Daeho that she never wanted to leave Earth because she had found something here that did not exist on her home world. She had found acceptance and friendship and maybe something even more precious than that. Glow. Description. Throughout her painful story, Nari's skin patterns shifted through a storm of dark emotions. Deep purple waves rolled across her arms when she spoke of the unfair class system. Angry red flashes sparked along her neck when she described being called a heretic. Gray shadows moved under her skin like storm clouds when she talked about her exile. But as Daeho shared his own experiences and showed understanding, the dark colors began to fade. Slowly warm, golden light spread from her chest outward, like sunrise breaking through darkness. The gold was rich and deep, like honey or liquid amber. When she took his hand, the golden patterns pulsed gently in rhythm with her heartbeat, creating the most beautiful light Daeho had ever seen. 2 months after the crash landing, strange men in dark suits started asking questions around town. They said they were government investigators looking into reports of unusual lights in the sky. The leader was a serious man named Agent Yun-Woo, who had cold eyes and spoke in a voice that made people nervous. Mrs. Kim, who lived next door to the garage, was the first person they questioned. She told Daeho that the men asked if she had seen anything strange or if any neighbors were acting differently. Mrs. Kim was a smart old woman who did not trust government officials. She told them she had seen nothing unusual. But Daeho knew it was only a matter of time before the investigators found evidence of the crash. He had hidden the broken pieces of Nari's ship in an abandoned building outside town, but someone might discover them. Worse yet, Someone might have seen him carrying. Nari from the crash site. Nari understood the danger they were in. She had learned enough about human governments to know that they would want to study her like a laboratory animal. She told Daeho that maybe she should leave town and find somewhere else to hide. Daeho refused to let her go. He said they would face this problem together and find a way to keep her safe. Nari's skin patterns flashed with bright white light which Daeho had never seen before. Later he learned that white meant overwhelming gratitude and love. They made plans for what to do if the investigators came to the garage. Nari would hide in a secret room that Daeho built behind the tool storage area. He installed a hidden door that looked like part of the wall. Inside the room he put food, water, and blankets so Nari could stay hidden for hours if necessary. For several days everything seemed normal. Customers came and went from the garage and Daeho fixed their machines as usual. Nari stayed out of sight, but continued helping with the work. They were careful not to let anyone see her unusual appearance. Then one afternoon, Agent Hyunwoo came to the garage alone. He pretended to need his car repaired, but Daeho could tell he was really looking for clues. The agent walked around the garage, examining everything carefully. His eyes missed nothing. Nari was hidden in the secret room, but Daeho was terrified that somehow the agent would find her. He tried to act normal while fixing the car, but his hands were shaking. Agent Hyunwoo noticed his nervousness and became even more suspicious. The agent started asking questions about the night of the crash. He wanted to know if Daeho had seen any strange lights or heard unusual sounds. Daeho lied and said he had been sleeping and heard nothing, but Agent Hyunwoo did not believe him. Just as the agent was about to search the garage more thoroughly, Mrs. Kim appeared at the door. She said there was an emergency at her house and needed Daeho to come immediately. She claimed her hover bike was making terrible noises and might explode. Daeho knew Mrs. Kim was creating a distraction to help him. He told Agent Hyunwoo that he had to go fix the emergency and would finish the car repair later. The agent had no choice but to leave with his car only half repaired. When they were alone, Mrs. Kim told Daeho that she knew he was hiding something important. She said she had lived long enough to recognize when someone was protecting another person. She did not know exactly what Daeho's secret was, but she wanted to help him. That night, Daeho and Nari talked about what they should do. The investigators were getting closer and it would be impossible to hide forever. Nari said she was tired of running and hiding. She had found happiness with Daeho and did not want to live in fear anymore. As they talked, they sat close together on the couch. The stress and danger had made them both realize how much they meant to each other. What had started as friendship had grown into something deeper and more powerful. Daeho reached out and gently touched Nari's face. Her skin was warm, and the golden patterns under the surface pulsed faster. She leaned into his touch and her, eyes closed with contentment. For the first time in her life, she felt completely safe and loved. Nari opened her eyes and looked into Daeho's face. She could see the same deep feelings reflected there. Without speaking, they both knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. Daeho leaned forward and kissed her softly. Nari's skin exploded with brilliant golden light that filled the entire room. The patterns moved like liquid, fire dancing with joy and love. It was the most beautiful thing Daeho had ever seen. When they separated, Nari whispered that she loved him in both Korean and her own language. The words sounded like music that made Daeho's heart sing. He told her he loved her too and would never let anyone hurt her. Outside, they could hear cars driving slowly through the streets. Agent Hyunwoo had returned with more investigators and they were searching every building in town. Time was running out, but Daeho and Nari had found something worth fighting for. Glow. Description: the stress and fear of discovery caused Nari's skin patterns to become erratic and unstable. Nervous yellow flickered rapidly across her arms, and face like lightning during a storm. When Agent Hyunwoo came close to finding her, the patterns turned bright white, with panic creating harsh, sharp lines instead of her usual flowing curves. But when Dae-ho kissed her, everything changed completely. The golden light that exploded from her skin was like liquid sunlight pouring through her entire body. The patterns became huge, sweeping spirals that covered her from head to toe, pulsing, in perfect rhythm with her heartbeat. The light was so bright and beautiful that it cast golden shadows on the walls and made the whole room look magical. Even after the kiss ended, the golden glow continued softly lighting her skin with pure happiness and love. The next morning, Dae-ho was surprised to find Jun-soo from the local cafe standing at his garage door with a bag of fresh food. Jun-soo was a quiet man who rarely spoke to his neighbors, but today he looked determined about something. Jun-soo said he had heard about government agents asking questions around town. He told Dae-ho that whatever trouble he was in, the whole neighborhood was ready to help. He did not ask for details, but said that Dae-ho was a good man who had helped many people over the years. Before Dae-ho could respond, Mi-young, the school teacher, arrived with her young son. She brought books and said she wanted to help someone learn Korean better. Somehow she knew that Dae-ho was hiding a person who needed education and language practice. Then Tae-min, the young mechanic who sometimes worked for Dae-ho, showed up with tools and supplies. He said he was ready to help fix anything that needed fixing. His eyes were serious, and Dae-ho could tell that Tae-min would fight to protect whatever secret Dae-ho was keeping. One by one, more neighbors appeared at the garage. So-young, the elderly woman who sold vegetables, brought fresh produce. The family who ran the hardware store brought materials for building and repairs. Even teenagers from the high school came to offer their help. Dae-ho was amazed that so many people were willing to help him without even knowing what they were helping with. They trusted him because he had always been honest and kind to everyone in the community. When their machines broke, he fixed them for fair prices. When they had problems, he listened and offered advice. Nari watched from the hidden room as more and more people gathered. She could hear them talking about loyalty and friendship and protecting their neighbors. Her skin patterns glowed with amazement as she realized that humans would risk danger for people they cared about. Mrs. Kim finally explained to the group that Dae-ho was protecting someone special who needed their help. She said this person was different from them but was good and kind and deserved to be safe. The neighbors did not ask questions about who this person was or where they came from. Jun-soo said that anyone who was important to Dae-ho was important to all of them. Mi-young said that protecting innocent people was what good humans did. Tae-min said he would stand between danger and anyone Dae-ho cared about. When the crowd of supporters had grown to more than 20 people, Dae-ho made a decision that would change everything. He asked Nari to come out of hiding and meet the people who wanted to help her. Nari was terrified, but she trusted Dae-ho completely. She stepped out of the secret room and stood beside him, facing the group of humans. Her skin patterns flickered nervously between yellow and orange as she waited to see how they would react. For a moment, everyone was silent as they stared at Nari's glowing skin and unusual appearance. Some people gasped in surprise and others stepped back in shock. But then Mrs. Kim walked forward and took Nari's hand in her wrinkled ones. Mrs. Kim said that Nari was clearly someone special and beautiful. She welcomed her to their community and said she was glad to finally meet the person who had been helping Dae-ho make such amazing repairs. The old woman's kindness broke the tension, and soon everyone was speaking at once. Mi-young said she had never seen anything so wonderful as Nari's glowing patterns. Jun-soo said he would be honored to cook meals for someone so unique and interesting. Tae-min said that anyone who could improve Dae-ho's mechanical skills must be incredibly smart. Nari began to cry as she realized that these humans were accepting her despite her alien appearance. Her tears sparkled like diamonds, and her skin patterns shifted to the warm golden color that meant deep gratitude and love. She tried to thank them in Korean, but her voice was too emotional to speak clearly. The neighbors spent the rest of the day getting to know Nari and learning about her amazing abilities. She showed them some of the improvements she had made to Daeho's tools and explained how machines worked on her home world. Everyone was fascinated by her knowledge and impressed by her intelligence, but their peaceful gathering was interrupted when Agent Hyun-woo arrived with 5 other investigators and a military truck. The agents pushed through the crowd, demanding to search the garage and arrest anyone who was hiding illegal aliens. The neighbors did not move out of the way. Instead, they linked arms and formed a human wall between the agents and the garage. Mrs. Kim told Agent Hyun-woo that he was not welcome in their community. Jun-soo said the agents had no right to threaten innocent people. Agent Hyun-woo became angry and threatened to arrest everyone for interfering with a government investigation. But Mi-young calmly replied that they were simply standing on public property, exercising their rights as citizens. Taemin added that they would not let anyone hurt their friends. The standoff continued for 2 hours. More neighbors arrived until there were over 50 people protecting Daeho and Nari. The agents realized they could not arrest the entire town without causing a major incident that would attract media attention. Finally, Agent Hyun-woo ordered his team to withdraw, but promised they would return with more authority and more agents. As the government vehicles drove away, the neighbors cheered and celebrated their victory. Glow description. Nari's skin patterns went through dramatic changes during this emotional day. When she first came out of hiding, nervous yellow and orange, stripes flickered rapidly up and down her arms like warning signals. As each neighbor showed acceptance and kindness, the colors gradually warmed, becoming softer and more golden. When Mrs. Kim took her hand, gentle waves of pink and gold flowed from the point of contact, spreading across her whole body. During the confrontation with agents, her patterns became protective deep blue shields that seemed to pulse with determination. But when the community stood together to defend her, the most amazing display of colors appeared. Rainbow spirals that covered her entire body, cycling through every color in beautiful flowing patterns that looked like living artwork, celebrating the power of human kindness and unity. Agent Hyun-woo returned 3 days later with twice as many agents and orders to use force if necessary. This time, he brought soldiers with weapons and vehicles that could break through any human barrier. He was determined to capture Nari no matter what the cost. Nari watched from the window as the government forces surrounded the garage. She could see that the agents meant business this time and would hurt anyone who tried to stop them. Her skin patterns flashed with distress, red as she realized her presence was putting all these kind humans in danger. She told Daeho that she could not let innocent people be hurt because of her. She would surrender to the agents and accept whatever they did to her. At least Daeho and the neighbors would be safe. She began walking toward the door, ready to give herself up. But Daeho stopped her and said he had a different plan. For the past month, he and Nari had been working secretly on a special project using her knowledge of space technology and his skills with Earth electronics. Now it was time to use what they had built. In the back room of the garage, hidden under old equipment, was a powerful communication device. Nari had designed it using parts from her crashed ship, combined with Earth technology. The device could send messages across the galaxy directly to her home world. Daeho's plan was dangerous and might not work. He wanted to contact the Kalari leaders and tell them the truth about Nari's situation. He believed that some of her people might be willing to listen and help reform their unfair society. Nari was afraid that contacting her home world would only bring more trouble. The rulers who had exiled her might send warships to Earth to capture her and punish the humans who helped her. But Daeho said that sometimes you had to take risks to fight injustice. He pointed out that Nari's story was powerful proof that the class system on her world was wrong. She had proven that builders could be just as intelligent and creative as any thinker or ruler. Her inventions and engineering skills showed that a person's abilities had nothing to do with the class they were born into. As they prepared the communication device, Nari's skin patterns shifted through many colors, showing her mixed emotions. She was scared about what might happen, but also hopeful that change might be possible. She was amazed that Dae-ho was willing to risk everything for her and her people. The message they planned to send would go to Var-Nethys, a progressive Kalari leader who had always questioned the class system. Nari had heard that Var-Nethys believed in equality and justice, but had never been powerful enough to challenge the rulers directly. Outside, they could hear Agent Hyun-woo using a loudspeaker to demand Nari's surrender. He gave them 10 minutes to come out peacefully, or he would order his soldiers to storm the building. The neighbors had gathered again, but this time they faced armed troops who would not hesitate to use force. Dae-ho activated the communication device and began recording his message. He spoke not as a government official or scientist, but as an ordinary human who had come to know and love Nari. His words were simple, but filled with passion and truth. He told the Kalari people about Nari's incredible intelligence and kind heart. He described how she had used her skills to help others and make the world better. He said that judging people by their birth class instead of their character was not only wrong but wasteful of precious talent. Dae-ho spoke about human values like equality, respect, and the belief that everyone deserved a chance to reach their full potential. He said that Earth would welcome Nari as a refugee and citizen if her own people would not accept her. As he spoke, Nari added her own words in the Kalari language. She told her people about the kindness she had found among humans and begged them to consider changing their society. She said she had learned that different groups could work together and respect each other regardless of their backgrounds. The message was transmitted just as Agent Hyun-woo's deadline expired. Soldiers began moving toward the garage while the neighbors tried to slow them down with peaceful resistance. It looked like violence was inevitable. Then something unexpected happened. The communication device began receiving a response from the Kalari home world. Var-Nethys had heard their message and was broadcasting it to the entire planet. Within hours, millions of Kalari were hearing Nari's story and Dae-ho's words about justice and equality. The response was immediate and dramatic. Progressive groups across the Kalari world began demonstrating for an end to the class system. Workers in the builder class went on strike demanding equal rights. Even some thinkers and lower-level rulers joined the protests, saying that talent and worth should not be determined by birth. Nari's skin patterns exploded with brilliant white and gold light as she realized that their desperate plan was actually working. Her story had become a symbol of hope for change on her home world. The courage that Dae-ho had shown in defending her was inspiring her people to fight for justice. Glow description. During this crucial part of the story, Nari's skin patterns became more intense and complex than ever before. As she prepared to surrender herself, the patterns were deep purple and black, like storm clouds full of despair. When Dae-ho revealed his plan, nervous electricity in bright yellow and white crackled across her skin like lightning. While recording their message to her homeworld, the patterns became steady and strong, with bold stripes of blue and silver showing determination and hope. But when they received the response and learned that their message was inspiring revolution, the most spectacular display of light erupted from her skin. Pure white light mixed with brilliant gold created massive spiraling galaxies of color that covered her entire body. The patterns moved like living stars, celebrating the power of love and courage to change the universe. The light was so bright, it illuminated the entire room, making her look like a goddess of hope and freedom. The response from the Kalari home world was stronger than anyone had expected. Within 24 hours of receiving Dae-ho and Nari's message, Counselor Var-Nethys had broadcast it to every city and settlement on the planet. The simple words, of a human mechanic defending an alien refugee sparked the largest social movement in Kalari history. Millions of builders across the planet stopped working and demanded equal rights. They said that if Nari could create amazing inventions and help others, then all builders deserved the chance to use their talents. Thinkers and progressive rulers joined the protests, saying the class system was holding back their entire civilization. The message had been translated into dozens of Earth languages and was spreading across human communication networks too. People around the world were inspired by the story of love transcending species barriers. Many humans said they were proud that their planet had welcomed Nari and shown her the respect she deserved. Agent Hyun Woo was receiving urgent communications from his superiors telling him to stop his arrest operation immediately. The situation had become an international incident with huge political implications. Diplomats and world leaders were demanding that Earth treat Nari as an honored refugee rather than a prisoner. But the most surprising response came from a group of young Kalari scientists and engineers who had been secretly working against the class system for years. They contacted Earth directly and offered to share advanced technology in exchange for Nari's safety and protection. These progressive Kalari sent detailed plans for clean energy systems, medical devices, and space transportation that could solve many of Earth's problems. They said Nari represented the future of their species, and they wanted to build an alliance with humans based on equality and mutual respect. Nari was overwhelmed by the response to their message. Her skin patterns cycled through every color in rapid succession as she tried to process the emotions of hope, fear, joy, and disbelief. She had never imagined that her personal story could inspire such massive changes. Dae-ho was amazed that his simple words about treating people with dignity had resonated across the galaxy. He had spoken from his heart about the woman he loved, and somehow that message had touched millions of beings on distant worlds. Television crews and reporters began arriving in their small town wanting to interview Dae-ho and Nari. Government officials who had been trying to arrest her now wanted to negotiate treaties and trade agreements. Scientists begged for the chance to learn from her advanced knowledge. But through all the chaos and attention, Dae-ho and Nari only cared about each other. They had faced danger together, and their love had grown even stronger. They spent quiet moments alone talking about their dreams for the future and how their two worlds might learn from each other. Agent Hyun-woo came to the garage alone without weapons or soldiers. He told Dae-ho and Nari that he had been ordered to offer them protection and assistance instead of arrest. The government wanted to turn them into symbols of peaceful cooperation between species. Nari was granted official refugee status and offered citizenship on Earth. She could live freely, without fear of being captured or sent away. She could also travel as an ambassador between Earth and her homeworld, helping to build understanding between humans and Kalari. The progressive Kalari leaders sent another message saying they wanted Nari to return home as a hero. They promised that the class system would be abolished and that she would be honored for her courage in fighting injustice. They said her story had already changed their world, and they needed her help to build a better society. Nari had to make a difficult choice between staying on Earth with Dae-ho or returning to help her people create a more just society. Her skin patterns showed the conflict in her heart, with swirling mixtures of gold for her love of Dae-ho and blue for her sense of duty to her people. Dae-ho saw her struggle and made the decision easier. He told Nari that her people needed her more than he did. He said she had a chance to help millions of beings live better lives, and she should not give up that opportunity for personal happiness. But Nari surprised him by saying she had found a third option. The progressive Kalari leaders had offered to make Dae-ho an honorary citizen of their world. If he was willing, they could both work as ambassadors traveling between Earth and the Kalari home world. They could help both species learn from each other while staying together. The idea of traveling to alien worlds scared Dae-ho, but the thought of being separated from Nari scared him more. He said he would follow her anywhere in the universe as long as they could be together. His simple garage had become too small to contain their love and their mission. As news of their diplomatic appointment spread around both worlds, people celebrated. The power of love to bridge differences between species. Children on Earth and the Kalari home world learned their story as an example of how understanding and respect could overcome prejudice and fear. Glow description. The overwhelming response to their message created the most complex light show Nari's skin had ever displayed. Rapid waves of every color swept across her body like aurora lights dancing in the night sky. When she felt hope, the patterns were bright silver and white, flowing like liquid mercury. When she worried about her people, struggling for freedom, deep blue and purple spirals pulsed with determined energy. Joy appeared as explosive bursts of gold and orange that looked like fireworks under her skin. But the most beautiful moment came when she and Daeho decided to face the future together as ambassadors. Her entire body became covered in gentle, rainbow patterns that moved slowly and gracefully like cosmic clouds of colored stardust. The light was soft but radiant, making her look like a living constellation, celebrating the infinite possibilities that love could create across the universe. 6 months after the crash that brought them together, Daeho and Nari stood in the same garage where their love story began. But now everything was different. The small workspace had been expanded into an advanced research facility where human and Kalari scientists worked side by side developing new technologies. Nari had become the most famous Kalari in the galaxy. Her story inspired millions of beings across many worlds to fight against unfair social systems and demand equal rights. She received messages every day from young people who said she gave them courage to pursue their dreams, regardless of what others said they could or could not do. The Kalari home world had completely abolished the class system after months of peaceful protests and social reform. Var-Nethys was now the elected leader of a new democratic government that judged people by their actions rather than their birth circumstances. Nari's exile had been officially revoked, and she was invited to return as a hero and respected citizen. But Nari chose to stay on Earth with Daeho and serve as the first Kalari ambassador to humanity. She traveled frequently between the two worlds, helping establish trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and joint scientific projects. Her work was building bridges of understanding that would last for generations. Daeho had also been transformed by their experiences together. The simple mechanic who once fixed hover bikes in a cluttered garage was now a respected diplomat and cultural advisor. His honest perspective and humble wisdom helped both species understand each other better. The human government had recognized Daeho as a special ambassador for interspecies relations. His job was to help other humans understand that aliens were not threats to be feared but potential friends and partners. His story with Nari proved that love and respect could overcome any differences between beings from different worlds. Their small town had become a symbol of peaceful cooperation between species. Tourists came from around the world to see where the famous love story began. The neighbors who had protected Nari were honored as heroes who showed the best qualities of humanity. Mrs. Kim had become Nari's adopted Earth grandmother, teaching her traditional Korean cooking and sharing stories about human family traditions. Junsu expanded his cafe to serve foods from both worlds, creating fusion dishes that delighted visitors. Myung started a school program where human and Kalari children could learn together through video communications. But the most important change was in Daeho and Nari's relationship. What had begun as a rescue had grown into a deep partnership, built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and unshakable love. They supported each other through the challenges of their diplomatic work and celebrated together when their efforts helped improve life for both species. On a quiet evening after a busy day of meetings and negotiations, they returned to the apartment above the garage. Nari cooked dinner, using recipes that combined Earth ingredients with Kalari techniques. Dae-ho told her about the new cultural exchange program he was organizing for next year. As they ate together, Nari's skin patterns glowed with the soft, golden light that Dae-ho had learned meant perfect contentment and happiness. She told him that she had received another invitation to return to her home world permanently, but she had turned it down again. Dae-ho asked if she ever regretted choosing to stay on Earth instead of going home to be celebrated as a hero. Nari smiled and took his hand across the dinner table. Her skin patterns pulsed gently with warm pink and gold light as she spoke. She said that when she crashed on Earth, she had lost everything material she owned, but had gained something infinitely more valuable. She found a partner who saw her true worth when she felt worthless. She found a community that accepted her when her own people had rejected her. Most importantly, she found love that transcended every boundary the universe could create. Nari said that her real home was not a planet or a building, but wherever Dae-ho was. Together they had built something beautiful that helped both their species grow and learn. Their love had become a bridge between worlds and a symbol of hope for the future. Later that evening, they walked to the field where Nari had crashed 6 months earlier. A small memorial had been built there to commemorate the beginning of peaceful relations between humans and Kalari. Fresh flowers were placed there every day by people who were grateful for the changes their love had brought to both worlds. Standing at the memorial, Dae-ho and Nari made plans for their future together. They would continue their diplomatic work, but also wanted to start a family that would represent the unity between their species. Their children would grow up knowing that love was more powerful than any difference between people. Nari's final words that night reflected the journey they had taken together. She had arrived on Earth with nothing but the torn clothes on her back and injuries that nearly killed her. She had been exiled from her home world and had no possessions, no status, and no hope for the future. But in Dae-ho's simple garage, she found something that no amount of wealth or power could buy. She found a human who offered her respect when her own people had denied it. She found dignity when she had been told she was worthless. Most precious of all, she found love that asked for nothing in return except the chance to grow stronger each day. As they walked back to their home together, Nari's skin patterns created the most beautiful display Dae-ho had ever seen. Gentle spirals of every color moved slowly across her arms and face like living artwork celebrating their shared happiness. The light was soft but radiant, making her glow like a star that had found its perfect place in the universe. Their story had begun with a crash in an empty field, but had grown into something that changed 2 entire worlds. From a simple act of kindness between strangers had come a love that proved the universe was vast enough for all beings to find acceptance, respect, and home in each other's hearts. Final glow. Description. In this peaceful ending, Nari's skin patterns reached their most beautiful and serene state. The colors moved in slow, gentle waves like calm ocean tides washing over golden sand. Soft blues and greens flowed down her arms, representing the peace she had found on Earth. Warm golds and pinks pulsed gently across her face, showing the deep love she felt for Dae-ho. Silver highlights sparkled like stars scattered through the other colors, representing hope for their future together. The patterns moved in perfect harmony, creating a living light show that seemed to dance with quiet joy. There was no urgency or stress in the display, only pure contentment, and the steady glow of a heart that had found its eternal home. The light was gentle enough not to disturb their quiet moment, but bright enough to illuminate their path forward, into a future filled with infinite possibilities for love and understanding across the stars.